The next question is, hi Diane, how did you get into astrology and making YouTube videos? Haley. Well, that was a bit strange really. How I got into that, which was, I think that began in 2007 actually, and that was, I had a number of years of ill health, one reason or another, and I was in a time of my life where the situation was that basically most of the day I had to be in bed. So it was one of my sons who suggested that, you know, all this knowledge was gathering dust and I may as well do something with it. And as he is an absolute wizard with anything to do with the internet, he said, why don't you just put out some videos for monthly forecasts? And I thought that was a good idea. It was a bit embarrassing really, because it is quite hard to sort of sit in an empty room and just talk to the lens of the camera, but because you can't hear the breathing, you know. It's always comforting when you can hear somebody breathing and responding on the other end. However, it gave me a focus to my day, so I would get up, get dressed, brush my hair, sit down in front of the camera, do 12 videos, which at that time were probably about, I don't know, 8 minutes long, and go back to bed again. So that's how I started making the YouTube videos. How I got into astrology, though, is different, and other people have asked similar questions to that. That was when I was about 18 years old, so like centuries ago. And I lived and worked on a boat for decades, and travelled all over Europe with this boat, carrying cargoes with my family. But I was off the boat one day in a great big city in the Midlands of the UK, and I was walking down a street and I happened to go past a second-hand bookshop, and in the front of the bookshop there was a display, and in that display was a book with an astrology wheel on the front, and it just stopped me in my tracks for some strange reason. I looked at this cover of this book and I recognized it, and I didn't, and I was scratching my head and thinking, how do I know that? Where is that? What is that anyway? So I just marched into the bookshop and bought the book. It was very cheap, and it was called Teach Yourself Astrology by Jeff Mayo. And this was a long time ago. As I say, this was in the 60s. So in those days, you know, anything about astrology was just lumped in with crystal gazing and tarot cards. And in fact, a lot of people still do that. But indeed, it's not like that at all. You need, I mean, in those days, you needed a mathematical bent to be able to work out the positions of all the planets anyway, because there was no computer programs then. In fact, there was no computers. So that was the very beginning, and I suppose in the beginning I was thinking, this thing can't possibly work. How can it be true? And I was just curious about it and wanted to sort of disprove it, and I would draw in pencil sort of a circle on a page and then work out all the degrees of all the planets and the sun for my family, and then I just was sort of secretly observing them like lab rats whilst I was going about my business across the waterways of Europe, and didn't really think about doing the YouTube videos until I was very old and not very well. So hopefully that gives you an insight into where I was coming from and where I am coming from. So thank you for that question, Haley.